Cell. Cell was a futuristic android created by Dr. Gero to exact his revenge on Son Gokū. Developed from the cells of some of Earth's greatest heroes and villains, Cell then traveled to the present in order to absorb the androids number 17 and number 18 and obtain completion. In all three of his main metamorphoses, Cell terrorized the Earth and killed a countless number of people in his quest to absorb the androids. Later, after obtaining completion, he hosted the Cell game where he ultimately met his fate at the hands of Son Gokū's son, Son Gohan. Appearance. Cell appeared as a muscular and robust humanoid creature with characteristics akin to an insect. Three-pronged toes make up his feet with black talons, matching the black specks adorning the green carapace plating from his shins up the thighs, matching the style of his four-fingered hands up to his shoulders, where an orange-ribbed shell covers his pelvic region to his hindquarters. Around the mid-center was orange-ribbed flesh that wraps around to be where his 3-4 meter long tail with green coloring on his top with black specks to a black underside, his end being a beige needle akin to a mosquito's and a proboscis like a typical insect's mouth. From the upper abdomen was a black-purple chitin in an oval shape presiding around the sternum region, where the rest of his body is covered by green carapace plating up to the neck, his front jugular being a deep black while the rest is speckled light green. His facial structure has a nasal to chin covering that was similar to the pelvic covering, an ovular ribbed orange piece of soft chitin which matches the back of his skull, made of similar substance. However, from his almost serpentine-shaped eyes, a black-purple encrusted chitin was placed where the forehead would be, branching out into a V-shaped crest of deep green carapace plating with black speckles as well. Personality. Cell's personality was designed by Gero when the latter was in a particularly good mood after completing number 19. It was meant to be an original personality with influences from the various cells that make him up. The computer altered the weaker aspects of Cell's personality, while adding in traits of the other beings who make him up to create a perfect weapon. Cell uses the pronoun watashi to refer to himself, a gender-neutral pronoun. He has, however, used or on separate occasions, such as when he introduced himself to Piccolo. Creation and conception. After Kazuhiko Torishima, Toriyama's former editor during Dr. Slump and early Dragon Ball, expressed dissatisfaction with first androids number 19 and number 20 and later androids number 17 and number 18 as villains, Toriyama created Cell. The creation was named after the English word for cell, based on the fact that he's made up of the cells of the Earth's greatest fighters, and he absorbs people, merging with that at a cellular level and transform. Toriyama has expressed some kind of regret regarding the design of Cell, calling it tedious to draw all the little spots on his body. In addition, he did not initially plan for the character to be able to transform, but gave him this ability after his then-current editor Yukondo described Cell as ugly. Cell originally evolves from a cicada-like form into his fist adult form, which is still insect-like in appearance. Both his first form and his second adult form have a long tail that ends in a stinger-like appendage and allows it to absorb other organisms. The tail recedes under his wings in his final form, although he then uses it to spawn Cell Jr., minuscule childlike versions of himself. Biography. The version of Cell that plays a large role in Dragon Ball Z hails from an alternate future timeline where he has already evolved to his imperfect form. Unfortunately for him, neither future Android 17 nor future Android 18 are present, having already been taken out by his version of future Trunks. In order to complete his evolution, Cell kills future Trunks and steals his time machine, going back in time to the date set by future Trunks in the standard timeline when both androids are still functional, sometime around 4 years prior to the android's arrival. In order to fit into the time machine, Cell had to revert to an egg, or in the dub, his larval state. Once he arrived in the past, Cell burrowed underground where he would remain for 4 years until he could grow back to his adult, humanoid self. Once this metamorphosis was completed, Cell emerged from the ground and molted his skin. Even though he had evolved into his mature, imperfect form, Cell still feared that he did not have the power he needed to forcibly absorb the androids. To increase his strength, his first actions were to exterminate several towns, absorbing the human inhabitants within. Unbeknownst to Cell, Kami had witnessed his arrival into the present and grew to fear that he would become an even greater threat to the Earth than the androids. After the Z fighters were defeated by the androids and decided to evacuate a sick Goku, Bulma tells future Trunks that she received evidence of a second time machine in a forest by Ginger Town. When she, Trunks, and Gohan go to investigate, they find Cell's abandoned time machine and his leftover egg and molted skin. Dragon Ball Z. Cell Saga. After completing his feeding on the humans in Ginger Town, Cell is confronted by Piccolo. Piccolo calls Cell a freak of nature, but Cell's ki shocks him. The richest man in Ginger Town, being held by Cell, begs Piccolo for help, offering him whatever he wants. Piccolo tells Cell to let the man go, and that life has value, even a worthless one like that man's. Cell seemingly complies by dropping the man, who starts to crawl towards Piccolo. Cell, however, stabs the man in the back with his tail and absorbs him, shocking Piccolo. Cell then looks at Piccolo and tells him that he is next, calling him by name. Piccolo, stunned, asks how Cell knows his name and who he is. Cell then powers up, surprising Piccolo again, and tells Piccolo that he is his brother, although Cell does not know at this point that Piccolo fused with Kami. Piccolo again asks Cell who he is, demanding to be told everything. Cell asks why Piccolo would need to know that while inside of his stomach. Piccolo says that he would prefer to know who his opponent is before killing them, but he will make Cell an exception. Cell scoffs at this. Piccolo tells Cell that he doesn't know how he knows of the name Piccolo, and powers up. He then tells Cell that he unfortunately has the wrong person, which confuses Cell. Piccolo says that it was convenient that Cell killed all of the residents already, as now he does not have to hold back. He then hits Cell with a massive ki blast. After a brief struggle where he easily beats around the creature, Piccolo asks Cell if that was all he has got and says he expected him to be more powerful. Cell says that Piccolo is not a bad fighter, but that he is not yet in his perfect form. Piccolo asks if that is why he is attacking people, and Cell confirms that he is absorbing human energy to power himself up. Piccolo then angrily demands to know who sent him in the time machine, and Cell reveals that he sent himself, after reverting to his egg form due to the machine's small size. Cell says that he is surprised Piccolo knows about the time machine, but says that he will not know his next move. Cell then begins to charge a Kamehameha, shocking Piccolo when he recognizes the stance. Cell unleashes his blast, and Piccolo is surprised to see that it is indeed a Kamehameha. He manages to dodge, leaping into the air. Cell, however, ambushes Piccolo and grabs him from behind, pinning his arms and legs. Cell says that he has him now, and stabs Piccolo in the arm with his tail. He manages to suck energy from Piccolo's arm before the Namekian headbutts him and escapes. Piccolo's left arm, however, becomes withered and useless. Cell, now mistakenly confident in victory, explains who he is to Piccolo. After hearing the story of his creation and his plan to absorb the androids, Piccolo reveals that he tricked Cell to give him the information while he took the time he needed to regenerate his arm and allow him to continue fighting. Piccolo tells Cell that even though he gained more energy from his arm, increasing his strength, he is still beyond the bioandroid's capabilities, and Piccolo prepares to finish this fight quickly. Cell, admiring Piccolo's intellect and tactics, praises the Namekian, surprised himself he had fallen for Piccolo's folly. Piccolo, however, states this tactic came from the mind of Kami. From this information, Cell comes to the conclusion that Kami and Piccolo have become one being once again, explaining Piccolo's power, which has kept him slightly above Cell's abilities. Cell, however, also concludes that due to this fusion the Dragon Balls have now become stone and unusable, thus, nobody can be revived from the dead, a tactic which works well in Cell's favor. Before Piccolo and Cell can fight again, Future Trunks and Krillin arrive at the scene. Future Trunks' presence in the past surprises Cell, as he deduces this is another timeline's version of him. Krillin asks why can he feel Goku's familiar ki coming from the monster, something Piccolo says he will explain later, after they have successfully destroyed the creature. Realizing that he is outnumbered, Cell decides to retreat and absorb more victims, and then finally absorb androids 17 and 18. Piccolo calls Cell's idea a joke, remembering the mediocre Kamehameha Cell had fired before, something Piccolo states was a sign of Cell's limit of power, and thus, has no chance of escaping from Piccolo's much increased speed. Krillin also becomes shocked that Cell can use the legendary Kamehameha wave. Cell replies to Krillin by stating that not only can he use the Kamehameha, he knows all of Goku's techniques, including the Spirit Bomb. Shocked that Cell knows his name, Krillin thinks that Goku will be even more shocked than he is when he is informed of this. With this, Cell deduces that Goku has not died of his heart disease and is still alive, which makes him excited at the thought of fighting him. Cell, now with a full plan of escape, shouts that he will absorb androids 17 and 18 and achieve his perfect form, stating that Piccolo must get stronger if he wants any chance of stopping him. Cell, now done with his threat, raises his hands and performs a solar flare, blinding his foes with a blast of bright light, making his escape and suppresses his energy to prevent them from finding him. As Cell runs through a woodland area, he chuckles at his own getaway, admiring his opponent's stupidity. Cell now states that he must avoid the Dragon Team until he has absorbed enough energy from humans to increase his power higher than Piccolo and the androids, and then, he will have an easy time absorbing them. Cell's only fear is the shutdown remote, which his enemies can use to deactivate the androids and then easily destroy them. However, Cell remembers that Piccolo said Gero's laboratory was destroyed, so the remote was most likely destroyed with it as well. Cell remembers another city nearby, and prepares to have his next meal. Cell, however, notices Vegeta flying nearby, and makes sure to hide behind a tall tree trunk. Surprised Vegeta has not suffered his fate to the hands of the androids yet and that his power is greater than he had expected, realizing how different the timeline is with all the Z-fighters alive, Cell decides to pick up the pace and make sure he absorbs more civilians as quickly as possible. In the anime, as Cell approaches Nikki Town, he encounters a bus full of Battle Ball team players. Their bus is stopped by Cell as he simply stands in the middle of the road and ponders his next step. As Cell is blocking their route and ignoring the manager honking the horn, the entire Battle Ball team climbs out of the bus and takes him on. After catching a glimpse of Vegeta flying, Cell easily defeats and absorbs them. Realizing that he is still far below his enemy's power levels, Cell decides to use a hit-and-run strategy at this point, hiding from the Dragon team while going from town to town, including Nikki Town, Basel Airport, and Chask Village, absorbing humans and gaining the power he needs to be able to take on the androids. Piccolo and Tien work on tracking him while future Trunks and Krillin kill the current, main, timeline Cell while still in his infancy. In the anime, he attacks two people at Basel Airport during his feeding, however, Cell encounters Krillin who rescues them. After a lengthy battle, Cell defeats Krillin and nearly absorbs him, although he is forced to let him live when seeing Piccolo and Tien zeroing in on his location. He escapes and hides from the pursuers by suppressing his power while taunting his foes. This becomes a continuing factor, as the Z-fighters obtained an aircraft that would allow them to mask their energy and not alert Cell. However, when Yamcha, Tien, Piccolo, and Krillin arrive in a town, Cell had anticipated their strategy and hid while gloating over his achievements. Eventually, after absorbing several tens of thousands of humans, Cell detects a large key. Knowing that this has to be Piccolo, he deduces that the only thing that could make him fight so hard would be the androids. Gleeful at the opportunity to finally absorb 17 and 18 transformed to a stronger state, Cell wastes no time and quickly heads toward the area. As expected, he finds Piccolo and Android 17 engaged in battle. The battle ends in a draw, since the androids and Piccolo focus on Cell. Standing on a hill, Cell happily states that this day has been delayed for far too long, but now is the time where he can finally absorb Android 17 and Android 18, and achieve the completion he has desired since his creation. Cell also notices Android 16, gazing emotionlessly towards him. Judging from the red ribbon mark on his chest, Cell assumes with confidence that 16 is a fellow creation of Dr. Gero and that he must be an older model than the others, and weak enough to safely ignore. As Cell descends from the higher rocky formation of the island, he begins to charge his ki, which completely decimates the entire rocky mountain area of the island. At this point, his power has far surpassed the weakened Piccolo and Android 17's, and without any precautions, he approaches 17. Piccolo stands frightful and stiff, as Cell simply walks past the astounded Namekian to absorb Android 17 first. Before Cell can proceed with an attack, Piccolo demands to know how many victims Cell has just absorbed. Cell chuckles, and states that they are not victims, but part of something more amazing than anything they will ever achieve in their lifetimes. As the monster prepares to absorb the android, Piccolo attacks him, freeing Android 17 from his grasp. Cell then watches as Piccolo informs the androids of what he is and what he has planned to do with them. Cell carries on Piccolo's explanation and tells 17 that the power unlocked from the absorption will be beyond comparison, and that Dr. Gero's dreams of creating the ultimate super being will be fulfilled. 17 denies this, stating that he is Gero's ultimate creation and he won't join with him. Cell replies that the absorption will be carried out, with or without 17's permission. Android 17 prepares to fight, however, finally speaking, Android 16 orders 17 to retreat because Cell is far beyond both him and Piccolo. 16 explains that if Cell obtains his perfect form, killing Goku won't satisfy him and he'll destroy the entire universe. Now surprised Android 16 is actually speaking, Android 17 is disappointed that the first thing he speaks about is cowardice. 17 dismisses the warning, thinking that he is much more powerful than Cell could ever be, and attacks. After knocking away Android 17, Cell fights and easily beats the weakened Piccolo, even managing to shrug off the Namekian's light grenade. After brutally breaking his neck and blasting a hole through Piccolo's side and tossing him into the sea, Cell is able to attack 17 again. Cell defeats Android 17 easily and is about to absorb him when Android 16 becomes involved. Android 16 states that according to his calculations, he is just equivalent to Cell in both strength and speed, and portends that he will be the one to kill Cell. Cell and Android 16 clash with each other with the Bio Impact and Machine Impact Rush attacks respectively, however, Cell catches Android 16 off guard and sticks his stinger right into his neck. Cell laughs and says that he cannot win, before attempting to absorb his bioenergy, however, 16's inorganic nature prevents him from absorbing any energy. 16 smiles and takes the stinger out of his neck, before tossing Cell into the ground by the tail. 16 steps on Cell's tail and literally tears it off of his body. Android 16 says that this will prevent him from absorbing 17 and 18. However, Cell simply regenerates his tail and gloats about the partial Namekian DNA he received from Piccolo. Android 16 realizes that he must destroy Cell completely, so he will not achieve his perfect form and attempts to kick him only to be knocked back when Cell counters with 2 punches. 16 then launches his fist at Cell in retaliation and resorts to using arguably his most powerful technique, Hell's Flash, which forces Cell underground and scorches the island. Android 16 advises 17 and 18 to leave, but 17 is convinced that even if 16 didn't kill Cell, it still proved that the 3 of them were unbeatable, fully sure that together, the whole world will soon be their playground. In Kai, 17 wants revenge on Cell for the beating Cell gave him earlier and decides he will finish Cell. Cell uses this opportunity to burst out of the ground directly behind Android 17 and, whilst sadistically laughing, he quickly absorbs 17 and evolves into his semi-perfect form. After Cell's absorption of Android 17, Android 16, knowing that he is now well outmatched, attempts to flee with Android 18, but Cell easily intercepts them, thanks to the added speed of Android 17. In a display of his new power, he takes a direct hit from Android 16 without injury and then easily blasts the android away, nearly destroying his head effortlessly. Cell turns to Android 18, but she threatens to self-destruct before joining him if he approaches, which will leave him unable to attain his complete form. In an attempt to pacify her, he pretends to be Android 17 by mimicking his voice, a trait probably gained from his absorption, and tells her how wonderful it is to be part of Cell and fulfilling the great Dr. Gero's vision. Android 16, still functional but badly damaged, warns her of the ploy, something she already knows since both she and Android 17 despised Gero. They would never compliment him. When his plan fails, Cell prepares to attempt to absorb 18 by force regardless, knowing that he is fast enough to prevent her from destroying herself and more than capable of overpowering her. He is prevented by Tien however, who uses his Neo Tri-Beam attack several times to stall Cell, destroying much of the landscape and nearly killing himself. Though Cell does not take any significant damage from the assault, it manages to hold him at bay long enough for Android 16 and Android 18 to make their escape. Eventually, Tien is exhausted to the point of death, and soon falls unconscious. Cell insults Tien for stalling his plans and decides to finish him as retribution. Before he executes the Triclops, Goku intervenes by teleporting to their location using instant transmission, meeting Cell for the first time. Shocked to finally meet Goku, Cell greets him as the Scion informs Cell that while he is not strong enough yet, he will fight him in one day and win. Cell laughs at this supposed cowardice, before he is amazed by Goku teleporting him and Tien near the sea. He is shocked to discover Piccolo survived his attack and regenerated, as he realized his careless mistake of not properly killing him. Just when Goku grabs Piccolo and makes plans to leave, Cell, who eagerly wants to fight Goku, states that they will not fight another day, but now, and flies towards him. Cell prepares to attack, though Goku uses instant transmission again, whisking the unconscious Tien and a barely alive Piccolo back to safety at the lookout before Cell's punch lands. Cell is in awe of Goku's ability to teleport, but dismisses it, saying that his priority now is to find 18. Without anyone to oppose him, Cell continues his search for Android 18. After losing her in a group of islands, he threatens to destroy all the islands nearby unless 18 shows herself. When 18 does not answer under 16's orders, Cell proceeds to destroy the islands, one by one, in an attempt to flush the android out. Having just completed his first year in the hyperbolic time chamber, Vegeta approaches and challenges him. Cell is soon shocked to discover that Vegeta is significantly more powerful than his new body, as the fight is entirely one-sided. Even after powering up to full power, he is unable to injure the Scion, who now calls himself Super Vegeta. During their fight, Cell becomes incredibly frustrated as he cannot land a hit on the Scion Prince, and states if it was not for Vegeta's interference, he knows he would have achieved his perfect form by now and have crushed everyone in his path. With Vegeta keen on knowing more about how strong Cell's final form may be, Cell appeals to Vegeta's ego, stating that if he were in his perfect body, he would be a much better challenge. Vegeta, wanting a stronger opponent, agrees to Cell's proposition. When Future Trunks refuses to allow it, Cell calls on Vegeta to remove him as an obstacle while he goes after the recently discovered Android 18. Cell charges the android with Future Trunks, also in his second-grade Super Saiyan form, in hot pursuit, until Vegeta kicks Future Trunks out of the way. Future Trunks retaliates by quickly blasting Vegeta, barely damaging him, but surprising him with the guts to attack his own father nonetheless, and going after Cell again, but Cell is ready and uses the solar flare to temporarily blind everyone long enough for him to absorb Android 18. Cell then puts up an impenetrable barrier while he evolves yet again, this time to Perfect Cell. After Cell achieves his goal of becoming perfect, Krillin becomes enraged by Android 18's absorption and immediately attacks Cell, with future Trunks assisting him in the original anime. In the manga and Dragon Ball Z Kai, Trunks instead warns Krillin not to attack Cell, who ignores him in his rage. However, Cell continues to admire his new body, completely ignoring Krillin and future Trunks' assault, barely registering Krillin and future Trunks' hits, and takes Krillin's Destructo Disc attack to the neck with the disc breaking on impact, not even flinching. He then lightly kicks Krillin away, making Krillin fly across the island, leaving Krillin in a near-dead state. Vegeta, unimpressed by the display, is eager to resume their battle, which Cell obliges. The tables then turn since their last battle, and now Cell merely toys with Vegeta at the beginning, taking on his attacks without any sign of damage. Vegeta then delivers a powerful kick to Cell's head, with almost all of his energy converted towards the attack, but Cell is not affected in the slightest. His head turns only slightly from the attack, leaving Vegeta in a momentary state of shock and disbelief. When Cell strikes back, the kick he delivers blows Vegeta away, smashing him through several rock formations, after which Cell proceeds to mockingly thank him, outright stating that he would never have been able to reach his perfect form were it not for Vegeta's foolishness. Android 16 briefly tries to step in and attack Cell from behind, but the bio-android hears him and warns him of what will happen if he carries out his attack. Vegeta then challenges Cell to take his next attack head-on without dodging it and prepares his ultimate attack, the Final Flash. While Vegeta charges his deadly beam, Cell continues to stand calm and collected, smiling while Android 16 looks in disbelief. Cell, however, does become slightly concerned when Vegeta finally fires the attack. Cell takes the full brunt of the attack, vaporizing everything to the right side above his torso. Though Vegeta believes himself to be victorious, Cell proves otherwise. His cells from Frieza allow him to survive and function with virtually any wound, and those of Piccolo allow him to regenerate from the damage instantly. Almost immediately following the attack, Cell regrows the destroyed area and is back to normal. Vegeta, now desperate, fires off dozens of key bolts, but Cell simply walks through it and with one swift combination of attacks, incapacitates the Scion. Power. Manga and anime. In his imperfect form, Cell has the power of his genetic materials at the time their DNA had been collected.
Se você quiser me apoiar, confira meu Patreon em https://www.patreon.com/kayoshi. Costumo fazer pesquisas que decidem coisas importantes sobre o enredo em meu Treon. Muito obrigado aos meus patronos incríveis. Bem Phillips.
In the Funimation dub, it is also stated that he has cells from Nappa, Krillin and Gohan. Before traveling back to the past, Cell was easily able to kill the future Trunks, base form, of his timeline. However, even after absorbing 15,000 humans, he was no match for Piccolo, who had newly fused with Kami. Despite Piccolo wearing weighted clothing, Piccolo with weighted clothing was stated to be equal to Android 17 by Android 16. According to Piccolo, imperfect Cell at this point was stronger than Android 18 and by extension Super Saiyan Vegeta. Krillin also noted that imperfect Cell was stronger than Frieza, wondering if this fact scared Goku, to which Goku stated both that it did and that he was excited by imperfect Cell's power. After absorbing at least 600,000 humans, coupled with energy previously absorbed from Piccolo, he was able to outclass both Android 17 and Piccolo, even withstanding the latter's most powerful attack without any visible damage. According to Android 16, imperfect Cell's power was equal to his own, which is confirmed when both were able to fight evenly. In his semi-perfect form, his power increased to the point that he far surpassed Android 16 and easily tossed him aside. In addition, he was also able to withstand repeated Neo Tri-beams from Tien Shinhan. However, he was severely outclassed by Vegeta in his second-grade Super Saiyan form. He shows that he possesses some power reserves when he powers up against Vegeta, but he is still inferior to his opponent even at full power. In the anime, he was also beaten by second-grade Super Saiyan Future Trunks during their brief battle, with both Vegeta and Future Trunks claiming that they were equal in terms of overall power in said forms. Perfect Cell becomes far stronger still, with Muri in the anime speculating that he was powerful enough to threaten the entire universe. He turns the tables on Vegeta, claiming that he was still warming up. However, despite his power, it was said that being hit by Vegeta's Final Flash would obliterate him, and by his own admission, his strength is inferior to Super Saiyan third-grade Future Trunks. Although he is still able to beat Trunks, due to the disadvantage of lowered speed that comes with the strength. He can also increase his muscle mass like Future Trunks, though he chooses not to. Also, a powered-up Goku stated he was still no match for Cell and stated he needed the 9 days of training to stand a chance. It is later revealed, however, that what Vegeta and Trunks went up against was only Cell's standby warming up power level after witnessing Super Saiyan full power Goku powered up to the maximum, Cell powered up just enough to gain a slight advantage over him. Krillin was amazed at the two's speed. In the anime, Cell also displayed the ability to use multi-form with all of his copies retaining full power instead of only having 1/4 of it. He also implied after faking a ring out that while he was indeed suppressing his power as Goku was, he himself intended to gradually unveil his full power for the duration of the match. At that point, after being dealt a fair amount of damage, he stated that if Goku were to take a Senzu bean he might win, but even that was a joke as he still wasn't using the full extent of his powers. At the suppressed level he used against Goku, it was said that Android 16's self-destruct device could wipe him out. Perfect Cell's full power is only finally revealed once Cell decides to power up to combat Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, resulting in Cell's aura being altered from a white color to a gold color in the manga. At this point, he becomes much stronger than Goku or any other fighter other than Gohan, who still outclasses Cell grossly with his newfound power. In his power-weighted state while at full power, Cell is physically stronger than before, but his speed fails to match the might. Nonetheless, power-weighted Perfect Cell is still outclassed by Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. While Future Trunks implies that power-weighted Cell is stronger than Super Saiyan 2 Gohan in terms of brute strength in the anime dub, the manga and anime demonstrate that Cell's endurance does not increase enough to withstand Gohan's power, as he was able to cripple Cell with a single kick to the stomach, and in the case of the anime, stun Perfect Cell by smashing into his face just beforehand, and make him regurgitate Android 18. In his super perfect form, Cell seems to be comparable in strength to Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, demonstrating enough confidence to power up and prepare to fight him head-on once Gohan transformed back into a Super Saiyan 2 and remarked that he wouldn't be arrogant this time around. Cell was also strong enough to defeat an angered Super Saiyan Vegeta by merely slapping him away and could have killed him had Gohan not intervened and taken the attack for Vegeta, resulting in the young half-Saiyan losing half of his full power. In the manga, he also implies that he didn't even put his full power into the blast that crippled Gohan while charging his Kamehameha. He also boasts that his power was such that he could even annihilate an entire solar system in one fell swoop if he so desired. Eventually, Vegeta distracted Cell long enough with an attack long enough for Gohan to overcome Cell's solar Kamehameha with a Kamehameha. In this state, Cell's Kamehameha is said to be strong enough to wipe out the entire solar system. Abilities. Absorption. Despite not having the same devices that number 19 and Gero use, he can absorb the DNA, energy and vitality of his victims by stabbing them with his tail, which results in their bodies being drained until nothing of them is left except their clothes. He can constantly increase his power level as long as he absorbs more victims. He can also enlarge the tip of his tail to catch and absorb persons of the size of an adult human body. Power and physical prowess. Key usage. Transformations. Cell's body can go through different stages of transformations by absorbing the siblings number 17 and number 18 into his system, each form enhancing his speed, strength and power by large amounts. Cell, second form. This is Cell's first transformation after absorbing number 17. In this form, he gets a boost in speed, strength and power that allows him to surpass opponents like Piccolo, who after fusing with God could match number 17 power, and number 16, the strongest android created by Dr. Gero. Developed form. This is Cell's final transformation after absorbing both number 17 and number 18. In this form his speed, strength and power increases to an even higher degree than his previous form, and with this power Cell can trump warriors like Vegeta in his Super Saiyan 2nd grade form, Goku and Gohan's Super Saiyan 4th grade, warriors whom had spent several months training in the Room of Spirit and Time before the beginning of the Cell games. Cell temporarily loses this transformation after receiving a straight hit to the stomach by Gohan in his Super Saiyan 2 form and regurgitating number 18 from his body. After his self-destruction and regeneration in the afterworld, thanks to the Namechan's powers from Piccolo, Cell recovers his developed form once again, but he becomes stronger than before due to the Saiyan S Cell's attributes. In this new enhanced stage, Cell has enough power that his ki blasts are capable of damaging Gohan in his Super Saiyan 2 form, whom he previously struggled to fight evenly in terms of power, as well as he claims to have enough power to blow up the entire solar system. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaioshin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my Patreon. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.